The in-person days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff going on in the industry, and
Yeah.
and
It's pretty wild time right now. Yeah,
yeah,
with especially in games recently. There's been a lot of layoffs, like 2,500 layoffs already
yeah,
this year.
yeah,
Over 10,000 last year.
right,
Things are shaking up. Everyone's concerned about AI.
yeah, yeah,
I get a lot of questions about that. So yeah, there's definitely a moment of disruption right now.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm a little less, I guess, apocalyptic and doom and gloom about it. Um,
What do you mean by
I
that?
think, well, I think they're just like, I think things have a way of balancing themselves out over
Hmm.
time. I mean, there's still going to be a huge demand for games and entertainment media, and there's still
Yeah,
going to be a huge need for artists.
yeah,
That's not going to change. The tools may disrupt, but they're not going to like totally upend
right.
the industry. I don't believe it will. I mean, it depends what you do, right? But I think for production art, production concept, I wouldn't be too worried right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
I think the new tools are exciting, and there's definitely opens up new possibilities. I try to think of it as on the positive end rather than it's just gonna destroy everything and
yeah,
take our
yeah, yeah,
job.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a challenging time for sure, and economically, we're still feeling the effects of COVID and recession or potential recession and inflation, and that's why you're seeing a lot of companies like pulling back on their, playing it safe. VC funding's a little dried up right now, so it's
Yeah,
just going through that period, but it looks, it's not going to be forever, right?
yeah, yeah,
Just a moment.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
was talking to the first episode. Well, by the time we're recording this, the first episode of season one
Yeah.
came out 3 days ago, and I was talking to Jason Shear, and we're talking like, most of these layoffs and stuff are business decisions. Are not
Yeah.
really, in most cases, AI related, or some of the stuff that some people I think are thinking it is. It's just COVID played a
Yeah.
huge part in those business decisions, and now
Yeah.
they're not coming to fruition how they were expected. um and those layoffs are even like the ones that we know, because I was literally right behind you. I was talking to somebody in a meeting, an artist that I met from, this is Spanish, not exactly where she's at right now, or used to be, but she just got laid off like 2 months ago, from another
Yeah.
company. But it's not like Blizzard or these big companies that we see in the news. It's just like another
Yeah.
company that laid off like 50% of their employees, and she was one of them. And
Wow.
she's looking for work and stuff like that. And it's just like, you know what we see in the media is not even the whole story. So
Yeah. Right. And it's it's cold comfort saying this is just a moment and it'll pass, especially if that's your livelihood and you
yeah,
need to pay a mortgage, or if you have kids like I do, we have a house, we have kids, not having that income is tough, is really, it's your lifeblood, and to cut that off is very scary. And then, of course, the existential concern of AI is always
yeah,
going to be there. And I'm not saying that it won't have any impact. I'm sure it will have impact, certainly. Um, it's just a very exciting time, I guess.
right, yeah,
Exciting in both the positive and the negative. There's a lot of
right.
shakeups and disruptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for whatever the reason, this is not something new, right? Like layoffs
Mhm.
happened, especially in our industry, it happens like constantly. So it's almost like, I'm recording a video now, just to kind of talk about, like, because I think a lot of people like get surprised by these layouts when it's something that has been happening, like almost you should be expected, like almost in the gaming industry. Like if you're shipping a
Yeah.
game, you should almost be almost looking out for work, because you don't
Yeah.
know if it's gonna be good or bad, or if you're gonna get transferred or laid off or something.
Yeah.
um so having to prepare, especially economically, for those times is, like, I think is crucial for every artist,
Yeah.
because those times are gonna come. It's just a matter of when they're gonna come. um
Yeah,
So preparing for that
absolutely. Yeah.
financially is just a key component of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, games in the past have kind of been the industry that's a little bit more stable. If you're in animation or film, you get,
Mm,
you spend a year or two on a
right.
contract and get another one. Games have typically, some of the longer live service games typically have a longer, have bigger, job security. I know people that worked in the same companies for like 20 years. I know
Right. Right. Right.
Blizzard
Right.
has been there for a long time, but that could be changing too. And it might be a good time to start unionizing in the game industry. Start those conversations up again.
How are you preparing
Or
for that? If you are,
for for what?
I
The
yeah, for
like
just
getting laid off or something?
yeah, yeah. I mean, are you even thinking about that, or do you just taking it whenever it comes?
I th- Man, of course, it's always in the back of my mind, like, what would I do? I make sure, like, financially, you have some cushion there in case
Yeah.
you need to live off savings for a while. You consider like backup plans, things like that. I think, I don't know, if you've got a skill that's marketable and you can find a way to make it work is
Right.
just the way
Right.
I think of it. Like I trust in my own abilities and my own skills that I'll be able to find something. I guess when I was, earlier in my career, I was just so afraid of losing
Mm,
my job. I was so
yeah.
panicked because I feel like once you're out, you're out. That's what I felt. Like, I still have that feeling from time to time. Like, oh my God, what would I do? Would I drive Uber? Like, would I do that? I don't know. I might have to. And I think like, I think as I got older, the more experience I had, the more I realized, oh, it isn't that dire. Like, I will be able to find something. And I think just being in sort of the position that I've been with Singularity 6 and doing the startup, I've been through the process and understand the process of starting your own company, and I've been through the process of like, being an art director and building a team, and uh, you know learning to widen my skill sets.
Yeah.
Whereas like before, it would just be I draw and paint and that's it. And oh my God, if they don't need me to draw and paint, they don't like my work, then I'm screwed. So I've kind of learned to sort of diversify my skills in even areas that are not actually like the craft,
Right. Right.
which I think that kind of widens my possibilities and thus job security in the future. Where I'm actually, excited about managing people and
Yeah. Yeah.
working with teams. And that has nothing to do with drawing and painting, which is what I love to do. And in no way is anyone going to take that away from me, not even the AI overlords. I can always draw and paint, and it's my hobby. And if I get paid to do it, great. But if I get paid to do other things, that's great too.
Right.
As long as I like the people I work with and I enjoy the project. How I contribute could vary. And I think that's what I've learned mostly from my experience of, joining, building a startup and building a team and going from like doing all the art then to doing in-engine work to, making assets to then managing a team, then doing no art and being strategic, right? It's a very interesting arc. It has its pros and cons,
Yeah.
but like I think for any artist starting out now, you really need to diversify your skill sets. You know what I mean? Like maybe start with your core, but like try 3D, try ZBrush, try other methods. Always be trying and learning new things. I think that's the best thing you can do. That's an investment in
Yep.
yourself,
Yep.
and that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever thought about diversifying your skills, but outside of the art industry, like doing something else?
Totally. Yeah. During the pandemic, I
Yeah.
I actually love that feeling of picking up a new thing, a new
Hmm.
hobby, and struggling through it, and then
Yeah.
making like fast incremental progress. I was learning guitar for a
Oh,
while
nice.
during the pandemic. I learned how to I learned how to solve Rubik's cubes. So I got really into Rubik's cubes. Like at home, I have like a bunch of them, like at
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
sizes and stuff. So that's been like a fun, challenging thing. I don't know, like just learning, picking up little hobbies like that has been really fun. Because my whole life is just like get
Yeah.
good, draw, paint, get better at that. Which I still love. I still do as much as I can, but there's so much more to life, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So have any of those things stick with you that you sort of like feeds your soul, like you just love doing it, and like sometimes you probably even more than doing art?
I mean, just getting away from the computer is really nice. Like
Yeah,
getting away from the webcam. I mean, anymore, my day to day basically is in meetings all day, right?
yeah,
So anything that gets me out of that and into like the physical realm is great. So that's why the cube is fun, or like
right.
I'm buying like fun little instruments to play, and it's great with the kids too because I'm always trying to find fun things for them to do.
Oh,
Kids
nice.
are
Yeah.
great too because they get you out. I mean, like whatever problems you have at work is just like it's gone. Like
Yeah,
now you're dealing with that, right? So that's been really awesome, and I think it's helped bring balance to my life. You know, just painting in with a brush, drawing with a pencil, and getting away from the tablet is also really
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Going outside and painting is amazing. Yeah, it's good to have balance in life. I used to when I used to teach, I would say it's like feeding the beast.
right.
You got to feed the beast. You sometimes you output so much, and then you kind of like run dry a bit, and you need to have more life experiences. You need to have like more richer sort
Yeah.
of moments in your life, and and then that kind of inspires you to then continue to create and put yourself down on the page.
But you were mentioning doing stuff outside of the art thing. Like I think that's like it's huge for that reason, but also I think it helps you also like appreciate what you're doing, because like not many people, like I think a very small percentage of people can actually say that they get paid to do what you love doing. Like I think sometimes we sort of take that for granted because we get involved with the everyday and doing art and getting better, and then we got all these issues with layoffs
Yeah,
and AI and all that stuff,
yeah, yeah,
that we don't stop for a second and actually think like, wow, we're actually able to do this and get paid. um but you've been an art director, and it's been a couple years now for Palia, right?
yeah. It's been over 5 years. This
Wow.
year it'll be six. Yeah,
Geesh.
since I joined. Yeah,
Because they announced it not just a couple years ago now, right? Not really that long
yeah.
ago.
So we announced our game Palia to 2021,
Right.
like June.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Wow.
announced it there, and then we finally released in open beta.
Yeah.
This was August of last year.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, it's a live service game. So once it's out, it's
Yeah, yeah,
just the beginning.
yeah.
So we've
That's when it
been
really starts.
yeah, we were doing a 2 week patch cadence, which was pretty intense.
Wow.
And on top of that, we released on Epic Game Store in October, and then we built a Switch port. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we launched our Switch version of the game in
Wow.
late December, mid
Right, right, right,
December last
right.
year. So it's out on Switch and PC. It's free to play, and yeah,
That's awesome.
it's been good.
Yeah, I've been
It's been
watching
fun.
all the art dumps that you've been doing for Pelican. You've been posting
Oh,
like a lot of freaking work. I mean, it's been like 5, 6 years or
yeah.
more, so I'm guessing there's a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, a majority of that work was done the first year.
Oh, nice.
Because when I started, it was just three of us just talking about the game. There wasn't a game. There wasn't, I was it. Like
Right.
it was like the two founders and then me, the art guy, and I was, building the style guides. And I had this practice of doing like a painting a day sort of
Mm,
routine
yeah.
where every morning I would just paint a thing. It like the thing that always bugged me sometimes about concept development, especially, from art directors I would get in the past, which is like they want to see everything in the kitchen sink in one image. They want one image to solve everything. And I was very much against that. I like to think of it as like, paint something that's in the world and focus on like one notion. Like what is the one idea you want to bring? And it was a practice that I had where I just every day I would do a sketch, or I do like a few sketches and then work on each of them for the week or
Right,
something.
right.
And then I would just like think of one notion. I was like, okay, the tree style, and then just like paint some images, and then what do the houses look like, and that's
Right,
it.
right.
And I'm not trying to put everything together. I'm just putting pieces together. And then what happens is I have, I'm not spending a ton of time, maybe like uh, up to 3, but probably like 1 or 2 hours a day. It's like my morning warm up sort of. And
Right.
then I built in the background as I'm doing like style guides and building the team and like planning. I've got this like library of imagery that I've just been building up. And then as people start to join, then I can like start, cutting bits off of this. Let's try that tree. Let's try this house. Let's try, this style.
Right.
And then it kind of creates out of a tapestry like what our decisions are for the style guide. And then when I do the style guide, it's like I've done so much work ahead of
Yeah.
time. It was a lot of planning and planning and planning, and then I kind of like push it aside and then I just execute. Is the way that I like to operate. And then you do things like your keystone, like your postcard concept of like this is all the best bits of these, but put together, or
Right.
you hire somebody to do that. Right. In
Right,
my
right, right,
case.
right.
So it's interesting sharing that stuff because I don't know. I was planning to not share any of it because it's just not like what's in the game. And I want to make sure that we always show, pretty closely to what to expect when you play games. It's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
just
yeah.
like it's my brain dump of ideas that I had that first year of working. And once you get into like the second year and the team is like 20, I'm doing less art. And then when it's like 50, I'm doing like very little. And then when it's 100, I'm doing nothing. And now we're 200. And it's like, I just don't have time
Yeah, yeah,
to,
yeah.
to do really any of that. But it was great. It was a good first year to just like plan on the style. And then what's great is then you have all these images that you can always pull from is like, oh, we're doing this new area. Why not try this?
Right, right, right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wish we
So
could see it, man, because I think especially for concept artists, it's good to see, that work because I think most people and artists, you go to our station and all you see is like the very curated best of the best
yeah,
thing that you ever did. But we don't get to see, the other huge amount of work that led you to
yeah.
that piece.
I think there's a layer below that I'm probably not going to share, which is like straight up production work where it's
Right,
just
right,
like
right.
scribbled over screenshots. And I don't know if there's any value necessarily to share that stuff.
Yeah.
But at least, that work is somewhat more presentable, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because
But yeah, and then it's several years of just built up sketches and stuff that I have, and then I want to share all the personal work I've done in the time because I kind of just stayed off of social media for a few years.
right.
I took a break from teaching for the last few years, so I'm just sort of getting back into that.
Why'd you
I
stop?
guess.
Just because so you can concentrate on the role?
Yeah, I mean the job just got really demanding. Like
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it was just really demanding. Plus, in my wife and I were having our first kid, and
Right.
we were buying our house, so it was like all those things happening all at once. I was like, I can't. And then with the pandemic happening too, I think what I realized is that we went from working in office and it was a lot of face to face time. And I even taught at a school called Brainstorm
Yeah, I did
here
too.
in Burbank. And I got to go in and teach face to face. And I loved that. But then when the pandemic happened, everything went remote and everything went to webcam. And the thought of spending my weekend as well as my whole week on a webcam just sounded not feasible for me.
Yeah.
So things like streaming and my YouTube and teaching, all that kind of just got pushed aside because I needed to separate because my whole week again is like being on a
Right.
webcam in
Right.
meetings. So unfortunately, I had to push that aside. And plus, the job was just, when we're growing that fast, like we grew, oh my gosh, we'd like double the size of the studio year after year.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of hiring, a lot of recruiting, a lot of, building teams. When you scale that fast, there's a lot of things to work out in terms of like who's on what team, who's managing who,
Yeah.
making sure people have what they need to be successful. So it was, yeah, it was encompassing, at that time. So I took a break from it, and I think this year now, this is a great year for me to try to get back into some of that stuff. So hopefully I will.
Nice.
Now the kids are still very demanding, but
Right. Right. Right.
not like the first when you have your first kid and you're not sure what to do. It's a little bit easier
I
second time
bet.
around.
Yeah. 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 Do you miss it? Because like for example, I'm the type of, like, I see myself growing more into like the whole management, art directing,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
production designer type of role. Because I don't need to, I don't need to do art every day. Like I don't need to have that need. Like I love the whole part of managing a team, building a pipeline, or
Mhm.
dealing with that sort of thing. Do you miss it, or do you rather go back to drawing every day, or have you sort of like evolved into more on the
Some days I'm like, man, I wish I could just like put some music on and just like
just
paint
draw
on a
in,
thing.
right?
Some days I really feel like that. But I think I would get bored. I don't know. Like I'm
Yeah,
not sure. I think I would enjoy that, but over time I would get bored.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would, yeah, I would get bored because I noticed that through my career. So I started my first job was with ZeniMax Online, Bethesda ZeniMax. We worked on Elder Scrolls Online.
Hmm.
I was on that project for 6 years. It was pretty demanding. I mean, there were some really intense moments there, and I was working a lot, but I got tired. 6 years is way too long to be on that, so I had to go. And then I got the chance to work on Destiny
Hmm.
through Activision. So I was working on Destiny, and that was really fun for a few years. But it was a little less demanding, honestly, for me. It was creative, like craft wise, it was challenging because like the artists there are amazing. But like, I don't know, I felt like it was just I don't know. I didn't have like enough on my plate. So
Hmm.
that's when I started doing like more YouTube. I started sharing my
Right, right.
process. I started doing a lot more personal work. I was doing streaming on Twitch and stuff. So, and that was really fun. I was really excited by it. I was doing more teaching then. I could be more because that's the thing. I was like kind of getting bored. So I was like, okay, I need to do something more. Um, and then I started the startup. So it was like, and then I got all the
Yeah, and then you got
challenge
a kid, and
I ever asked for. And then it was like, okay, I can't do that plus all the extra stuff. Something has to go.
yeah,
So unfortunately, I had to pause a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
for Elder Scrolls and Destiny, was that sort of like a freelancer? Or you were actually like in the studio working?
So definitely with Elder Scrolls Online, I was there in Maryland with the
Yeah,
team. Yeah, for 6 years, and then with Destiny, that's when Destiny was working with Activision,
right,
and Activision had a couple studios, a couple co-dev studios working with Bungie. So I was with Hyman Studios in San Diego, and we were working on first to launch Destiny 2, and then we did the Forsaken
right.
expansion. And it was like a co-dev sort of environment. But
Mm,
yeah, it was fun. I mean, I freaking love Destiny. It was fun to work in that world, and the team at High Moon is amazing. So, and I love San Diego, so
yeah.
it was kind of great. But it was like maybe a little less challenging for me. So,
Mm,
I was looking for a new challenge. I had a dream of starting on a new game and being part of
starting from
the
scratch.
you
Yeah.
know being an incubation house. Literally, we were in the CEO's house when we started. So going from like AAA to that was just so invigorating for me. It was like so exciting. I
Yeah,
loved it. Yeah.
it's crazy that you say that because that you weren't challenged enough because you don't hear that often. Like that actually happened to me on my previous job. And it was a job that I could do, um, not easy, but it wasn't like you said, I wasn't challenged enough, and it was sort of like a stepping stone to the next thing type thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you did very for Elder Scrolls and Destiny, almost like this very photo bash realistic sort of concepts and painting, and then Palia is like completely on the other side of the spectrum. uh were you always inclined to do like the stylized things, or?
Um, it's funny because like for me, doing personal work is always a catharsis. It's always a response to like what I'm doing day to day. I always want to
Mhm.
do something else. I like to be a chameleon in terms of like I could you know switch to whatever style or setting.
Mm.
Which I think is good because I like to be challenged, and that's always challenging. Like starting a new area, probably not so good with personal brand and the
Right,
algorithm
right,
that doesn't typically
right.
like when you
Right.
do that. But I personally like it, and I think that goes back to like me trying like new hobbies and struggling and like
Mm.
trying to like work it out. I love that like initial challenge. I think when I was working on Elder Scrolls Online, the Elder Scrolls world, I was like really getting bored of. I was So all my personal work was like going more sci-fi, a bit
Mm.
more realistic. I love like John Berkey and John Harris and a lot
Yeah.
of classic like 70s sci-fi illustrators. So a lot of my personal work was kind of gearing towards that. It's just what I was really interested in. And then it was like that work that caught the attention there. So then that's what I did. And then again, like as I was like working within the Destiny world, I guess, for years, I was getting bored again. And then in my personal time, I was really interested in like Studio Ghibli background painting. I was really interested in potentially working in animation because they get to paint and there's a lot of story and life
Yeah.
in the work. There's a lot of emphasis on lighting. And at work, I was doing like 3D model, photo bash, light paint over, next image, and I wanted to just paint and just that's it.
Mm.
And that's why my personal work was like kind of going towards that more like stylized end, which then led me to, the startup, which I built a whole art pipeline around stylized PBR and that kind of work. So I guess my personal work now is gearing towards maybe the next thing I'm thinking about. So, um, yeah, we'll see what happens there.
That's cool. How did that came about? Because I'm wondering like how the CEO and the founders of of that studio, like, did they approach you and say, oh, we have this idea for this game and your style sort of fits and want to hire you? Like, how
Yeah.
did that work?
So they they're two X-Ride developers. One was a
Mm.
EPN, I think EPN League of Legends, and one was a lead designer for their incubation R&D projects.
Right.
They decided to leave Riot and start their own company. And they had a really amazing pitch, like a really great idea for a game that like was necessary for the moment.
Right.
And I think they have a really good they had a really good insight on what gamers need or what audience is not being served right now. And at the time, okay, this is 2018, right?
Right.
At the time, it was like cozy community sim type games, which is just like not, there weren't nearly as many. There was like Stardew, Harvest Moon, that's it, right? Stardew really like kicked this whole thing off, this trend off. Um, and so I was a huge fan of like these types of games. And I'm like, yeah, there's not enough of them. And we want to do it like stylized PBR, AAA as much as possible, really give it like a really nice presentation for
Mm.
this genre that we don't think is served very well. So they created a pitch deck. I guess they were able to get seed funding in 2 weeks, which is unheard of, which is like amazing. But in their pitch deck, they used other artists' work.
Mm.
And they used a lot of my work, like
Like the
a
personal
lot of
work
the
you were
stuff.
doing.
Yeah, a lot of my personal work. and they thought, well, at least maybe we should reach out to him and
Right,
see
right,
what's
right.
going on. So, they're the folks they work with at Riot, like the concept artists, they all know me there. So one of my friends at Riot said, "Hey, you need to talk to this guy. They got this cool pitch. He might be interested." And I'm like, "Okay." Um, I've heard these before. They're
Yeah,
usually pretty derivative games. Like, okay, of course you're making another MOBA, right? At the time, right? It's just like, okay. But this was like, oh my God, community sim game. Oh, that's what I love. I love playing those games. And it like I could already kind of imagine how this game would look. So yeah, and I don't know, it just meshed really well early on. So it was just three of us at the start, and I was just, yeah, I was having a lot of fun just incubating on this idea and playing in this world. So the stars aligned for us there, and we've been very successful, so far, and through the funding process, growing the studio, and now we got the game out. I mean, just like making any game is really hard. Making a new game and a new IP, an MMO, nonetheless, in Unreal, and shipping on Switch like in 4 months, like is absolutely insane. We have like some of the best people in the industry, some of the hardest working, most passionate people in the studio. So, I mean, it's not many people get to have that kind of experience in
yeah,
games.
yeah.
So I'm like super appreciated. And even though like it took me away from the things I really like, I'm really passionate about too, I was able to learn so much uh, about my own self, about my own like leadership capabilities, like growing a team, the business side of things. So it's incredibly invaluable for me.
That's cool.
Um,
That's
yeah,
cool, man. That's great.
I rambled, and I don't know if I even remember your initial question.
No, yeah, that was it. That was it. Because we don't get to. I don't think regular artists like your everyday artists, they don't get to know or hear how these things come about. Those little
Yeah,
details.
yeah,
I think it's very important because it does take a bunch of work at the beginning stages.
yeah,
Usually when you come into a project, is that everything is already set up and the pipeline is
yeah.
set, and all this stuff is ready for you to go. Um, and so it's very rare to get to work even before all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely a lot of challenges there. Sometimes you think like, oh my God, if I was in that position, I would make better decisions, or why did they make the decision? That seems, and then being in that position, I'm like, okay, I can
yeah, you
understand
get
how
it.
how
Yeah,
quickly your best intentions don't work normally. Like, um, yeah. And then, but there's other ways, there are other ways in which I built the team that I think I still feel very strongly about, and I think we've done quite well there. But yeah, sometimes you just think, oh, I could do it better, and then you're like, oh shit, it's actually much harder than I thought.
so what would you say? Because for the artists out there, since you have been in both sides, what would you
Yeah.
say will be the one thing for an artist to understand or know? um
Hmm.
because when we get to a price, like I said, everything is laid out and stuff, and we don't really know
Yeah.
what's happening before that. What would you say to those artists?
Um, if it was certainly myself too, thinking of myself when I was just starting out, or any artist starting out, I think it's important to remember that what you do is a point in a long process.
Mm,
It's a point in a long pipeline, and sometimes the decisions that you make or we make uh, is because of how it affects others in other parts of the pipeline.
right.
Sometimes, like it's easy to um, get really narrowly focused on the task that you're doing and not think about how it's affecting the whole. Um, I call it sometimes I call it viewport syndrome, like for 3D artists
That's pretty
or
good.
for, yeah, like you're just like, this is going to be the best fucking barrel anyone has ever seen. You know what I mean? Like that's the art mentality, and that's how I am too. Like you want me to do a concept of a book? Get ready. It's going to be a great looking book, But then when you see it in game, it's like, it's on this
Yeah, yeah.
tiny part of the screen. Like, so why did we? why do we need to spend? So it's like, I think one thing that I try to encourage the artists to kind of think about is like effort and impact. Like, um, if you spend this much effort, how much impact is it to the player?
Mm,
Everything should be seen from the player's eyes, from the player's viewport.
right.
Um, and I think that's an important lesson to learn. It may be different lessons for animation. I never worked in that industry extensively, so I have no idea. But for games, certainly, it's an interactive experience. It's a mix of technology, psychology, art, sound. It's really complex. So it's important to remember that your choices kind of and how that affects the whole in the end.
Nice.
Right?
Nice. Cool, man. So I have three questions actually that I ask all my guests before we finish, just out of curiosity. Um, the first one is, if I give you $1,000 right now, what do you do with that?
1,000?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. uh, put it in an investment fund.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or do I have to just splurge it on something?
you do whatever you want with it. It's yours.
Okay. Probably that. Like I'm making investment funds for my kids. So yeah,
Oh, nice.
that's what's
For
on my
college?
mind right now. Yeah, college or
Nice,
whatever.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna appreciate that, because student debt, it's, you know,
Oh
it's
man.
ridiculous.
I have no idea when they're at that age, like how much things are gonna cost. Who
Oh, yeah.
knows?
Well, that's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
probably even if by the time they get to that age, probably college is not gonna be even a thing, or not as necessary, unless they want to be like a doctor or something.
If I splurge it, then it's probably like, flight with a family to go on a trip somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to go to Hawaii with them.
Nice.
So maybe Hawaii.
Are you still in San Diego?
No, I live in Los Angeles.
In LA? Okay.
I'm in the valley here in Los Angeles. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking I was talking to an artist there, for this, and ask her that same question. And I'm like, "Oh, if I give you $1,000, what do you do with it?" And she's like, "Well, I'm in LA. That's not gonna really cover much." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Probably like a latte and some
I didn't want to
shrimps."
say that. I don't want to be rude, but yeah. Yeah. What's that? Yeah. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Put it towards my mortgage, I guess. Where are you at?
I'm in Austin.
Austin. Okay.
Yeah, Austin, Texas.
I have sometimes I look at, I go on Redfin or Zillow and go, what if we lived in Texas? Like because you don't get a state income tax, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
No.
and you could get land there and a pretty decent sized house. I'm like, maybe we should live in Texas.
Yeah.
Do you like
I
it
mean,
there?
yeah. I mean, it's not super
I
cheap.
should have known by your hat that you live in Texas,
Oh,
by the
right,
way.
right. No, we've been here for 6 years, a little bit over 6 years.
Yeah.
We bought a home 2 years. Almost, it's gonna be 2 years in summer now, um, in Austin. So whichever, usually you have San Antonio, Houston, Austin,
Yeah.
and Dallas. But I love it here, man. I'm a huge fan of horses too, so I get to
Oh
ride
yeah.
here a lot.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
so we like it here. I don't know if it's gonna
I
be our final destination, but
yeah.
um, we like it here so far.
That's great. What kind of, I'm curious, what kind of riding? Just like trail riding, or do you do like, what is it? Where you do the jumps?
No, I don't. That's I have jumped before, but that's more on the English
Mhm.
style. I like the Western, so anything like roping, anything that has to do with cattle and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Which that reminded me, you were talking about doing stuff outside of art.
Mhm.
Every year I go to a horse drive in Idaho. So so we go, I go to Idaho, I spend like a week, and we ride horses, and we drive like 50 horses from the mount, through the mountains from one point to
Oh,
the other.
wow.
And we
Oh,
spent like
that's
a
so
whole
cool.
week. So I'm gonna do
That's
that this
probably
year in May now. Which is gonna be a lot of fun. But anything Western, I love doing.
Well, you're in the right place for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. You have to drive a little bit out of the city, but I'm not in the city, thank God. But um, there's a lot of horse places around. They're
And,
nice.
and what you work a lot with Wizards,
So I'm
Wizards of the
full
Coast.
time with Wizards. I'm one of the in-house concept artists. Um, so we build pretty much. We're actually two principal artists, two junior artists. I deal with all the environment stuff. For every
Oh.
set we design. Um,
Yeah, I was
the
looking at your work. It looks really great.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks, man.
awesome stuff.
Appreciate it. Um,
So good. Yeah.
yeah, we have this concept pushes a couple times a year for every new set that is gonna come out later on, and we design pretty much everything. Um, and The illustrators that do the cards, they use our concepts to do the illustration stuff. So
Oh, okay. So you're like building out the world.
yeah, we're in the world building team.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah,
That's got to be fun.
yeah. It's a lot of fun. And it's I mean, it's still very challenging. But at the beginning, it was crazy because like every 3 months, we were doing these pushes and concepts, and it was always something like a different theme, just like a whole new place. It's not like I was working animation before, and we'll spend a year and a half, 2 years doing the same thing, like paintings of the same places over and over.
Really?
Um, yeah, because we had 50 locations throughout the whole season, and we had to concept then, but it was those locations, it wasn't changing. But here it's like every 3 months, every 4 months is like something completely new. um um and we don't get to do well, at least I don't get to do like super final finish paintings,
Right.
because we only have a couple weeks, and we have to just create the ideas and just keep making and making and making. um so it's very rare that we get like, oh, you have a week to do this one painting, or 3 days to do this one painting. It's like everyday thing.
Wow.
um
Yeah. So you're just like you're building a kit, like the basic visual shape language,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then go on to the next one.
yeah, depending on the needs per each set. But in my case, we have to deal with architecture, for whatever set, or architecture, the environments, the lands, all the different lands, mountains, plains, forests, all that stuff. um
So do you do any personal work that's like a catharsis to that? Like do you have like a painting that's the complete opposite? You just like spend hundreds of hours on one because you don't do that at
no,
work?
I don't do it's very rare that I do personal work.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to another artist. We're talking just about that. Like, I don't do. I have a very different relationship with art. Like, I didn't grow up with art, so I don't have like a super emotional attachment to it.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't do like drawing or painting for fun. Like, I don't do that.
Right.
Like, I'd rather go ride horses for fun, or go to a
Right.
trail or something like that.
Yeah.
Something completely different. Every time I do art, it's either for a client, or for a specific, like for work, or for my
Interesting. Okay.
students, or something like that.
Yeah.
um and even the studies learning thing, like I learn like very specific things as I'm working, because of my
Hmm.
needs. Like, I don't do landscape studies just to do landscape studies.
Yeah.
um unless I'm doing like a landscape, then I'll do something like that. But um that's normally how I approach it.
That's great.
So it's
Good.
been like that since.
It's a very professional sort of
Yeah,
mindset
yeah,
to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
For me, it's therapy
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes. Well, my day again, like my day job is not doing it,
Right,
right? My day
right, right.
job is in meetings and
But if
talking.
you
So
were
for
like
me,
before, were you spending your free time painting too?
yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it was therapy then too, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing
yeah.
the opposite of what I'm doing at work.
Right,
Uh,
right.
I guess I just like for me, if I have an idea or if I'm inspired, like I just can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Like I have to put it down somewhere. I have to do
Oh
it.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that is or what causes that, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, that's fucking cool. I should make it. When do I have time? Do I stay up late? Yeah, I stay up late. I'll stay up to 2 just to get it down, and then I can breathe.
See, I have no idea what that means or what that is.
Or sometimes like I like it. Well, I think that's more now just because I
Yeah.
don't have as much time. It's just like I want to do. Oh, hello. Okay.
Oh, yeah. That one.
I would like to do like a what I call like a comfort painting. Just like
Mm.
it's like when someone knits or crochets or like that's my knitting and crocheting is just like I'm painting a forest with dappled light. This is my therapy. This is how I relax. I do it on Procreate now, like on the
Oh, nice.
iPad, or I'll do it in gouache, or I don't know. Like I'll bring out heavy paint on my phone. I don't know, whatever it might be. Like it's my thing I do, and it has nothing to do with making money or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I've got to because that's just the way I am, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So you're like, even if I mean, worst case scenario, I put, very the worst thing, that artists are not needed anymore. Art is no
yeah,
longer in the face of the planet. You will still be doing art just for fun.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Even if I'm not getting paid or anything,
Yeah.
I would still do it. I have to make images. That's what I do. That's all I got, Jose. That's it. And then it's like if I was thinking of just like maybe going back into like just painting on paper
Mm,
and painting traditionally
traditional.
mostly. Um, and then, if my day job just became writing prompts for AI generative algorithms, then I would be okay, fine. I have my painting at night. I can still do that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still fun, and I'll paint on canvas, and no one can generate that. At
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
not yet.
Yeah. 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 Or you can just tweak whatever you get from the AI. You can just, oh, maybe
Yeah.
this needs a little bit of, painting here and all that.
Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the long and short of it. I have a problem.
Nah, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. I mean, but I mean, have you been doing art since you were a little kid?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
See?
much. Like I've been drawing. I grew up with more art, I
Yeah.
guess. Like my parents were both musicians and artists. So,
Oh,
they're creative types, but never made a living out of it. They had to get regular jobs, right?
right.
But I grew up with that, and it was pretty encouraged. I mean, not discouraged or encouraged, just kind of like, oh yeah, that's what he likes to do. Let him draw.
Yeah. He'll learn. He'll learn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, but
Because I,
it's always been compulsion, I guess, for
right, right,
me
right.
to make images. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I didn't grow up with art, and I'm probably the only creative, if you want to call it that way, in my family. So
Mhm.
it's not a thing um, that I've done for, so many years.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah. Everyone's different. It's really amazing to see how
mm-hmm.
your background shapes your art and your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that that's I was talking with somebody recently who was like really blue about the whole AI thing. I was like, you know what? One thing AI can't do is you can't say make me a landscape painting of a mountain painted by a troubled artist, like someone with divorced parents,
Right, right,
grew up in
right.
a foster home, or like like I think trauma is sometimes can help
Mm-hmm.
build your personal style and your personal interests and tastes, and that's just not something that can be replicated.
Yeah, you can't.
Like
Yeah.
you can't like in the prompt write the life experience of the painter who made the image.
Right, right.
Like it can never do that.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm romanticizing it a little bit too much, but
No, but
I
it's
think
it's
that
true. And I mean, um, I was listening a little bit to Maciej Kushira's podcast, and they were
yeah.
talking about AI. I don't remember who he was talking to, but what one of the thing is like, AI cannot really, the work that AI produces is based on whatever work is
Yeah.
produced already, so it cannot really innovate, um, and grow past that, because it's based on what's existing,
Yeah.
right now. And I mean, maybe it could in the future, but we don't know that. But the great thing that artists have right now is just that innovation part of it,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
thinking how you can be even more valuable than AI as an artist,
Yeah.
and
And
understand yourself.
you still need you still need you still need that, and you still need good curators to know what's good.
Right.
Um, you can't just like, yeah, anyone can make like type in a prompt and make a nice image. It does a really good job at making good looking images,
Mm-hmm.
but like what is good and what is right for the project and what images say the right things in the right moment, they still can't do that.
Yeah.
Like the AI can't do it. The person typing it in can't necessarily do that unless they have that voice, and they understand fundamentals and they understand like all these important things that we learn, that is aside from just like drawing good or painting good,
Right.
right? There's all these other things that are operating in the background when we make images, that is, you can't put that in the prompt, necessarily.
But
So
yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think aspiring artists and junior artists is something that they need to hear, because they're probably the ones that feel the most threatened by AI, right now.
yeah,
Um, and I think the more that you have been in the industry, like the more experience that you have and all these positions that you have worked with, the more you understand the needs of a project, and you can put that into contrast to what AI does, and you know that that's not really gonna work because of the stuff that is needed for the project. And I think that's something
yeah,
that beginning artists and junior artists and stuff, they need to hear that, um, because it's not just about the pretty image.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's really solving those problems and design issues, and creating those things that are actually needed for that particular
yeah.
project or need.
Yeah, I mean, painting is like writing.
Hmm.
It's like music. It is saying something. You know,
Right.
it is saying something to somebody. It's hard to get something genuinely said through generative art right now. Um, but I like to think of it as a tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, if it's a tool that helps me say my voice and doesn't replace my voice, then I'm good, right?
Right. Right.
I'm trying to think like in concept art, there's been moments like that where, more 3D processes came in at first. People were kind of against it. You don't, I think the bottom line is you don't want to let the tool overtake your voice or overtake what you're trying to say with your work. Um, Photo bashing, same thing. People are like, oh my God, you photo bash, that's cheating, or that's like, there's 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 some uproar about that early on, but now people accept it. People know that, hey, that is just a tool that you can use to better express what you're trying to say.
Right.
I could see, generative tools the same way.
Yeah.
The fear is like, oh my God, we're just going to sit there and write prompts and that's it,
Yeah, I don't think
and it's
that's.
like real life. I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think it's
Yeah,
gonna
no,
do that.
no, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And I'm also thinking like, we're not just talking. Oh yeah, we're talking about generative AI, but just AI as a whole, which is a huge
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like for example, like I'm recording this with a AI powered website that fixes
Mhm.
and the audio and the video, and helps clips
Yeah.
and all that stuff, and that's all using AI. So
That's
um
cool.
which is kind of cool because it saves you a lot of time. And
It Yeah, it enables single creators to
yeah,
do
that too.
more.
Yep.
And that's what's exciting about like tools that are more accessible to single creators. And that, I mean, that's what's interesting. I mean, kind of go back to the layoffs thing, with this many really talented people getting laid off.
Hmm.
I'm excited to see what they create in this
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Could be new studios, new innovations, like, again, cold comfort for those who really need that
Yeah. Yeah.
paycheck, certainly. But I think it could open up new doors where maybe we don't need to rely on the big companies anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe now we have enough tools that we can start creating our own, making our own destiny here.
Yeah, I was actually saying the exact same thing to Robbie Trevino. We were talking about that, and I told him that I see that all these big companies are laying off people, but maybe that brings opportunity to having
Yeah.
more teams, but in a smaller scale, like smaller teams, but way more. So we'll see even more products being developed. Um,
Yeah.
because of the tools that we have. But I want to ask you this one last question before we finish here. This is sort of like the whole question that base this whole price of art talk or show. But I always ask, for people that have been doing art or any sort of skill or being in the industry for so long, like you have, like I have been, there has to be some sort of sacrifices made throughout the years,
Yeah.
but there's always that, maybe that one sacrifice that maybe people don't know about, or just a few people know that you had to sort of go through in order to get to where you're at.
Um, I don't know. Like nothing like singular pops out to me. I guess just because maybe just the habitual nature with my relationship to art. Like it was just always a thing that I always did,
Mm,
and there wasn't like a moment where I was like, okay, now I have to give up this in order to do it.
yeah.
Um, I guess, in a small way, like we were talking about earlier, that happened with this company, and just I had to give up doing the art
Mm,
in order to help others succeed. And the value judgment of like, do I spend 10 hours on a painting and people go, wow, or do I hire 10 people to make 100 paintings, and that's better for the company and the
yeah,
project
yeah.
and the game, right? There's some sacrifice there,
Oh
certainly.
yeah.
But if I think about like my whole life, maybe health was a
Yeah, well,
price. Those days when I work full time, teach and do freelance, like I was getting, very little sleep, you know, in order to, make ends meet, or to, if I'm feeling ambitious, you know, there's a lot of like career ambitions that I had at the time and I really wanted to get to, and the cost of sleep and health usually was a thing when I was younger. Like that's easier.
yeah,
Now that I'm
yeah,
older, I'm starting to wish I had healthier habits, and I'm learning that lesson a little bit later. Relationships suffer sometimes. I've had relationships with past people that just don't understand. Like, oh yeah, this is my life. It's not just a thing I do on the side. It is my life, and that means I spend time on it. That's certainly suffered at times. There's always anything that you give your life to and in pursuit of. There is something that gets pushed aside in order to do it.
yeah.
Um, and I think that's the biggest price. But I don't regret it. Of course, I would
Of
never like
course,
go
yeah,
back and redo things.
yeah,
I'm very happy with what I've chosen to do. I just feel very privileged that anyone likes my art, and I feel privileged that I get to work in an industry that's treated me very well these 15 years, um, and I wouldn't regret any sort of decision that I've made.
nice.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's a great um I mean, you can call that sacrifice, the whole art directing thing, because you weren't probably thinking too much about you. You were thinking more about the end goal
Yeah.
and the product, and um
That's a difficult thing to do. And then the
yeah.
next step is like making sure you're giving people the space to be creative and make
Mm,
decisions. You give them space and autonomy. Set up the guardrails, but know that their solution may not be what you would have thought of, and that's
right.
okay as long as it hits the core goals and it's within those guardrails set. I know, in the past, people you work with, they just want you to be their hand, right? They just want you to make the thing that's in their head. And I learned that's really not a good way to go, for yourself as well as the artists that you're working with.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, trust and autonomy is really important.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great skill to have, especially if you
Hmm.
need to delegate and have people under you and all that.
I mean, there's things that are in my head that I wish that they would just make, but
Yeah.
like, it doesn't work that way.
Right,
And
right.
sometimes I'm delighted by the alternative choice that they made, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even think of that." And that opens up a new avenue, right? Like, so just being open to that, oh, it was really important.